guys, welcome to Wine and the podcast where we talk about wine and everything that goes with it. Today we are talking wine and culture. We have Makani here. He is also a host for Culturised. So appropriate.
I don't know about appropriate. That's a strong word.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going culture.
It's almost like we did that on purpose.
More like that's all you could find. That's the new word for appropriate.
That's the only reason I got hired.
Oh my goodness.
First of all, I gotta say I'm humbled and privileged to be here because I know nothing about wine. It's red, it's white, and sometimes I eat it with chips and salsa. That's all I know. I know I'm weird.
Nice.
Can I do this real quick though? Hold on. So first of all,
so
aloha.
good. Aloha, thank you.
There you go.
1 minute in, you're already
I
our
know,
best guest.
right? You got to.
Oh my god.
Kalamai, sorry.
So
Here you go. Right on.
I got laid.
Right.
Way there.
There you go.
It just makes you feel so special, right?
Right, you guys are.
Wow.
Thank you, Bella.
Thank you.
And this also for, I know, you know, it's always funny because the crew always gets left out of stuff. You see their faces? Like, man. So this is for the set, actually. This is for the crew or whoever. So this is just a whole kupu. Of course, it's culture. I can't come to a show and not be cultured, right? So that is, I just call it that's your home blessing kit, right? So inside there is pa'akai, or Hawaiian salt, right? And that pa'akai particularly comes from our ohana on the island of Kauai. And then and then the olena is also in there. Olena, you guys know, is turmeric. So basically those are the two things that you use whenever you're in a space. I mean, I love this space, but whenever you're in a space, whether it's your home, whether it's your work, anywhere it is, you use that to just kind of clear the space, bless the space, for lack of a better word. But that's for you guys, because you never know. People that sit in this chair, you don't know what they have, right? You don't know
Especially
what they leave
that
you.
college.
Right?
Have you ever heard of Pep Z?
That's actually good for it. So I'm kidding.
That's curious. They get 26 variants, right?
So mahalo. That's for you guys. A whole kupu for you guys. Mahalo.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, I was born and raised on Kauai, yeah?
Serious.
And I don't have a salt hookup. So,
There you go. That comes from the salt flats.
which family?
The Taburas, but my cousin used to run Hanale Poi.
Wow.
So now that, yeah. So,
I love Hanale Poi.
right?
So what is the significance of like lei giving? And
Lei is
This is the first time Moani got laid, so.
that's what they
been
were
a
saying.
while.
It's actually I know, right? Drop the wine glass. Yeah. Lei is actually universal, I think, but today it's kind of lost. It's a bad analogy, but it's like the F word. It's kind of lost its validity. Like people just give it because they think it's a marketing thing. But a lei it always represents a child, first of all, and of course it represents love. But you always give it to somebody that you care about, right? Or just people that you meet. It's a huge gesture. It's a simple, huge gesture that a lot of people don't do anymore, right? Like you go to Japan, you get off the plane, people are speaking Japanese, you're immersed in the culture. You go to Germany, so you get off the plane in Hawaii, you gotta go buy a lei. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gonna lei you, right? And that's just the things that are missing. So lei is very important. So I try my best, to give a lei, but it represents just people that you care about and you're a connection, right? So that's my.
There's huge lei giving culture, right? Like
It is.
all these, for lack of a better word, superstitions when it comes to leis.
There is there's superstitions, like if a woman is hapai. So what I've learned, a lot of times that depending where you're from, that giving a lei to somebody who's hapai, especially a woman, when a woman is hapai, they're sensitive to smells, they're sensitive to things, right? So if you give them something very fragrant, it's going to make them nauseous or whatnot. I was taught that one of the only leis that are appropriate to give to somebody who is hapai is a lei kukui, right? A kukui lei. There's no smell. But a lot of times people cut the lei because they think if you give a hapai lei, the umbilical cord is going to get stuck around the neck. That's superstition. Well, some people believe it. But the lei kukui, the kukui represents knowledge, right? So if you're passing this knowledge from yourself to your child, right? You want that knowledge to be perfectly surrounded around you. So if a hapai woman, right, the piko and the piko. So when you give a lei to a pregnant woman, most likely give them a lei kukui, right? Not something fragrant, because you don't know how sensitive they're gonna be, right? You don't know what the hormones are going on, so.
That might be raging.
Right? Get this off of me right now.
I don't like it.
It smells good, but I hate it. Yeah, so that's lately. There's so many things I think we should bring that back.
But it's not
you know?
like specific to the Hawaiian culture, right?
No, in Thailand, there's different names for it, right? In Thailand, in Samoa, in all of South Pacific, yeah. So it's a lei, it's a universal concept. I think it universally means the same thing. We just do it different ways, right?
Very
I see.
cool. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to actually get into the wine.
Oh, there's wine here. I forgot.
Totally forgot. I was like, I'm more into this whole culture thing. See you when we get back.
Stick around.
Rest easy with the new windows from Windows Hawaii, featuring Alli Extreme windows with their exclusive sound reduction and security package. Call 671-0808 today. 120-day peace of mind guarantee exclusively at Inspiration Interiors. Inspiration will refund you the difference if you find a lower price on identical merchandise delivered in Hawaii.
Wine Ad brought to you by Locations, whose team of trusted neighborhood experts have been helping Kama'aina to buy and sell homes since 1969. Locally owned and operated.
Welcome back to Wine and Culture, where we have Makani Tabura, and we're going to talk more about Culturised. But first, the wine.
First, we're going to drink, right?
I was going to say.
We are going to drink. I'm sorry.
He started already, but it's okay.
I know.
We're so engrossed in conversation. So we talk about wine and culture, right? I mean, wine culture itself, there's so many do's and don'ts and superstitions and politenesses and whatever, niceties. But I brought two wines that are super near and dear to my heart. And when I think about culture, I think about roots, right? And I want to share the story about this little root louse, this little bug that pretty much had the propensity to kill the wine industry as we know it, that a lot of like novice wine drinkers don't know about today. I mean, this bug called phylloxera would attack roots of vines.
Really?
And just pretty much decimate it. It was estimated that in 1890, the world's population of wine grapes, like the vineyard acreage, was down 90%. And everybody was freaking out. We're trying to figure out like how to combat this bug. And it became things like superstitious, like hocus pocus kind of things, where they would bury a toad to like kill the poison or draw out the poisons. Nobody knew how to fix this problem. And it was a huge problem until one guy, Charles Valentine Riley, came around, and he figured out the problem was to just take these native wine from Europe, because Europe, Vitis vinifera makes supposedly the best wine, and take American rootstock and graft the European vines onto American rootstock. Phylloxera hates American rootstock. Wow. They don't eat it anymore. And it was such a huge, obviously, because the wine industry could have died. It was such a huge discovery that this guy is, it was over 100 years ago, but there's a statue of him now built at one of the biggest cities in France for viticulture.
Is that beetle still, is it still around?
It's still around, oh yeah.
No way.
And so most everything is grafted on American rootstock, but there are a couple really old vineyards that are self-rooted or own grafted. They're not grafted with anything. They exist on their original rootstocks.
No.
Guess what wine we're drinking?
That one?
Something that
What?
exists on its original rootstock. It turns out phylloxera does not like sandy soils. They can't travel through the sand. And these two wines are grown on essentially it's not a beach per se, but it's like, you look at the vineyards, it's all sand. So they can't get there. These are some of the oldest vines.
So you can grow it in Waianae. All the Waianae sand.
You get like 4 harvests a year probably, but
That's
yeah.
it. So this might turn into every moment I have is an educational thing. So I might just be asking 10 million questions about wine.
So this particular wine is made by 2 former American sommeliers who now live in Amsterdam, who make wine in this really rad vineyard called Vinevale in South Australia. Makes sense, right?
Wow.
Culture,
Yeah.
they're like
That's
all over the place.
crazy.
The grape is Semillon, and there's a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc. So it should smell like
It's-
nothing
yeah.
you've ever had before.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
It's like a
Do
different
you like do
smell.
a cheers thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Some guy Lanai said you got to do that.
Yeah, and then you gotta look each
You
other
gotta
in the
look in the
eye.
eye,
Otherwise you're done.
Is that-
You're done. 7 years, bad luck.
Do you have like a favorite wine that you like to drink on?
Whatever goes with chips and salsa.
Oh, this.
Actually, I got to be totally honest. Disclaimer. I know it's a wine and show. I don't drink a lot. This is probably the most I've drank in ever just now.
Really?
Don't feel guilty.
We have a tendency to do that here.
But that's why I don't know. The only thing I know about wine is like $2 Chuck at Trader Joe's. I don't know. That's all I know, and what Lanai tells me.
Hey, who invited him?
Right? It's like, who picked this guy?
Smart people, because you're obviously.
But
crushing it.
but that's the thing. I'm interested. You know what I'm really interested in? It's totally gonna be me asking questions now. And you did Hawaiians drink wine? Because our monarch, right?
Right.
They were totally connected to Europe and the Brit and all those European countries before America. But they had to. They were so bougie.
They had to.
Do they?
Yeah, I'm sure. And I don't know what wine they drank, but wine culture in Hawaii, I mean, it goes back to the time of the monarchy. It really was. There's this guy, I don't want to mispronounce his name, Don Francisco Paulo Marin. He was a jack of all trades, spoke all these languages, planted the very first vines, actually sort of near a place called, now we know as Vineyard Boulevard.
Hello.
No kidding. And he was actually called upon to be sort of like Kamehameha's de facto doctor as he lay dying. So he was actually with Kamehameha when he died, on top of doing all these things, being the first to have a commercial vineyard and plant vines here in Hawaii. He was very connected to the monarchy.
Wow.
In fact, Marin Tower downtown, that was his old house. So it's named after him.
What? Like, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to remember these things. That's an interesting.
So I don't know exactly what they were drinking, but they were absolutely drinking.
I
Because-
am mind blown right now. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
I want to know more about some of the history and so forth, but we'll be right back.
That's kind of cool.
Wine Ad brought to you by Locations, whose team of trusted neighborhood experts have been helping Kama'aina to buy and sell homes since 1969. Locally owned and operated. Wine Ad brought to you by Beachside Roofing, the leaders. The Hawaii Symphony Orchestra returns to in-person concerts at Hawaii Theater and the Blaisdell. Visit myhso.org for tickets and information.
All right, welcome back, guys. Here with Makani, host of Culturised. Can you tell us a little bit about Culturised? I don't think we got into that yet.
Culturized. I guess
idea was that?
it was I don't know. I think I don't want to say it was somebody's specific idea. I just had this thing that it's just like how you guys are doing. There's a lot of people that want to learn something, but we get older, especially today's society, we have this local thing, especially in Hawaii. I call it the local boy syndrome. Shame. I don't like it, right? But it's because they need to find a venue or an avenue to learn something. But they think they get to this point where I cannot learn anything else, right? So especially culture, and like I was saying earlier, thousands of people come to Hawaii, right? Every day, every year, every month. And they come and they leave and they have no idea there's a culture, there's a people, there's a language. We're the only state in the United States that has our own language. It has our own monarchy. So I thought to myself, not only to share with people that are coming to Hawaii, but our own people, right? There's a lot of stuff we don't know. And it's not what I know, it's who I know. So I said, why not create this venue and bring on my friends that are versed in whatever part of culture. And it's just not native Hawaiian culture. It's any culture that makes up Hawaii, and just give somebody the opportunity to watch from home or listen in their car and be like, wow, I didn't know that, right? I didn't know that. And then hopefully that will inspire them to go out and learn that, right?
I say that like 100 times an episode when I watch Culturised. I didn't know that.
See?
It really is. It's so cool.
I think we need it today, because if you think about it, you go far back, our grandparents' era, whatever culture you were, all the immigrants that came in, they tried to assimilate so much to America, right? there's some that held on to the culture, but then, especially for Native Hawaiians, they were shunned. Don't speak your language, don't practice your practice, don't do these things. And so there's this huge generational gap. If our grandparents are in their 70s and 80s and us being in our 30s and 40s, it's like, there's this huge generation of knowledge that's lost, right? We get so caught up in the Western world. But at the same time, I truly believe that we can have one foot in Kawakahiko in tradition, but still move forward. I mean, our people were ahead of the game. People don't, they forget, right? We had flushing toilets and lights before the rest of the world did, right? Our monarchs rubbed elbows with all these other superpowers, besides America. But I think we need to, you hear about this cultural renaissance, but some people get mad at me when I say it, but a lot of us, or a lot of people, like the facade of being a certain culture, right? And for me, for dancing so long in shows, at one point I remember feeling like a fraud. Like I'm on stage, I'm doing a Samoan number, a Tongan number, a Fijian number, and I'm like, I'm a Hawaiian kid, right? So that inspired me. I said, okay, let me go learn. So when I'm on stage, I at least understand what I'm doing, right? So that I think that kind of inspired Culturized, is just a venue that wasn't hardcore Native Hawaiian, hardcore Japanese, Korean. It just gave people an opportunity to inspire them to learn. So that's my long-winded answer.
It certainly did for
That's
me.
a good answer. Cheers to that.
And you're like, good, drink some more.
What are you pouring, Chris?
So when you do 2 glasses like this, do I have to finish the first one?
No, not at all.
We got the dump bucket if you need to dump.
So you grew up on Lanai.
I did. It's a great place, even till today. No Starbucks, no 7-Eleven, no McDonald's, no stoplights, no nothing.
Stoplight.
No stoplight?
There's no stoplights.
Wow.
No.
I was like,
not at
wow.
all.
But the views
Right?
is amazing. Anywhere you look.
She took a private jet there. It's okay.
I gotta go. Really? I flew Mokulele, and I was delayed
I
for
love
10
that.
hours.
And the flight was like, boom, boom.
Wow. Yeah,
All right.
Lanai is a
Well,
great
you
place.
know what? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a
Already?
sip of our wine,
Okay.
and then when we get back, we're going to talk about how we feel, how we love it. See you back soon.
Welcome back to Wine and Culture. Okay, Makani, so we're
Yes.
just talking about the island of Lanai. Tell us about your favorite memory there.
Oh, my favorite memory is growing up with nothing. And I say that in a way that aside from nothing, we had everything, right? Some people have everything in the world and all they have is money, right? So, if we're speaking of culture, right? Vai vai is the Hawaiian word for to be rich, to have things, right? Water is vai, vai vai, but that's how it was growing up on Lanai. Culturally, it's. I remember when we used to fly over to Honolulu, it was like Crocodile Dundee. I think I just aged myself, Crocodile Dundee. People are like, who's that? But it was the big city for us. So growing up on Lanai, that it's funny because I didn't understand culture at the time, in a sense that, like, if I asked you about wine, that's just what you do, right? So people are like, oh, you're very cool. What do you know about culture? I'm like, I'm just me, that's right. So Lanai inspired me to learn more of my culture, because Lanai, growing up with nothing, Lanai in the old days wasn't looked upon. Like during the Great Mahele, when they divided up all these lands, right? Lanai wasn't included. Lanai didn't have its own chiefs, it was run by Maui. So Lanai really didn't have anything in a sense of monetary or tangible things, but we had culture. Right? We had culture, we had ourselves, we had our brothers. We grew up on a farm. My grandfather taught us, not only how to farm, but how to supply and demand the business side of farming. He would make us go to the store and sell our produce. And of course, people would tease us, you guys have more money. It's like, yeah, but I'm still eating, right? So Lanai it's an interesting place, very interesting, even till today. And I think I can say Lanai still holds on to a little bit of the culture. But as you know that you went, it's such a juxtaposition of old school, and you get these 5-star hotels, right? And you land at the airport. There's all these Lear jets,
Oh, she knows.
right?
Yeah.
You landed on one of
She
them.
only does private jets and
But it's still such a great place. It's still such a great place to go to. Culture-wise, we're still trying to hold on to it. You know.
I'm a small town neighbor island kid, Hawaii,
Right.
but so I still think of Honolulu as a big city, right? So going to UH, even my first semester back home, I thought there was a blackout. Like, where are all the lights? Like seriously, it took whatever it was 4 months for me to forget. Like,
Yeah, when you go home, you can hear the electricity going through the country. You're like, I can't sleep.
yeah, dead serious.
That's Lanai. So that's what I remember. I really remember growing up in Lanai, in a lack of a better analogy, is having nothing but having everything. You know.
Wow, I'm gonna steal
Wow.
that totally.
that's beautiful.
The culture of stealing really cool
I'm
lines.
telling you, it's perspective. I think it's all perspective, especially when it comes to Hawaiian culture. It's just a perspective of everything, right?
Speaking of perspective, for me, I didn't realize what culture was until I left Hawaii and I went to
Exactly.
college. And
Right.
then I was like longing to learn more about it. Weird, oddly, right? We're here, we have all the resources, but I don't desire it until later. What was it for you? When
It's
did it
just, I
hit?
think it's just human nature. And it's funny, I ask this question on my show a lot, and people look at me like, what? I ask people, when did you realize you were Hawaiian? Or when did you realize you were Japanese, right? Or when did you realize you were whatever race you are? Because people don't, you grew up knowing, but it's like, oh, when I started dancing hula, I was like, oh, okay, that's why. We all have a purpose. We all have a kuleana. Once we realize a kuleana, right? When you left, it's the same as me. I left, go away to college, and all my friends that could care less about who would tease me that I danced hula and all this stuff. As soon as we got to college, they're like, I'm in the Hawaii club.
Right.
Right, like Sinamalo.
I know how to tie one malo.
But I think it was that. It's just human nature. It's human nature to take what we have for granted, right?
Thank you, Makani, for being here. We appreciate you so much. Where can our audience find you?
I think our website is culturised.com. The IG, Instagram is @Culturised Podcast. Spotify, Google, Apple, and ask one of your cousins, aunties, friends.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Mahalo,
cheers,
mahalo,
cheers.
mahalo.
Mahalo.
All right, welcome back to the extended version. We are doing wine and culture with Makani, host of Culturized Podcast. You had a question. What were you going to get into?
Are you drunk?
Actually, I had a question. It's crazy because
That was my question.
It was funny because coming here, I was thinking, man, I got so many questions about wine, right? Because I love this because it's going to inspire me to, man, I'm going to be hanging out at this bar now all the time.
It's a great bar. Muse is a really cool bar.
I've learned that, or correct me if I'm wrong, that the name, like you said, Grenache earlier, is that the name of the grape or the wine? What's that whole thing?
So in some places, you don't even have the name of the grape on the label. Yeah, but in places like Australia, United States, they want to prominently feature the grape, right? So this particular, I mean, you won't see it on the front label, Grenache. They call this wine Suzette. So Suzette, Grenache is the name of the grape. And this comes from some of the oldest Grenache vines in the entire world.
Grenache. Well, how many different grapes are there? I'm just asking questions,
Like
sorry.
10,000.
Serious?
10,000 like wine grapes.
Wow.
Probably more, I mean, you know, there's a lot. But only a few rose to the ranks that are actually like, you know,
So this is going to
widely consumed.
it's gonna show my wine ignorance. Why do people do this?
Because we want to seem
And that.
cultured.
Is that,
No, I'm joking.
See,
Don't forget, you got to smell it like he
Is that
does
what
with the
it- what
wine.
is-
Yeah, it goes like this.
what is that?
The gangster lean.
No, when we first met Chris, he was like taking it, looking at it. Yeah.
So I go to all these like events and stuff, and there's wine and people, and I'm just that guy going. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
What is the difference from just going like this to this?
Supposedly. See,
It's more
now I'm, like,
gangster.
no, supposedly like humans smell better out of their left nostril.
No
Oh.
way. Wow.
Supposedly. Or maybe it's like one of those
Try the right.
superstitious things that I read.
I don't know. Now I'm gonna do that. Well, I don't know. Filipino people do that when they kiss you, right? They go, right? That's a cultural thing, right? So whoever's
You're reminding me of my grandma now.
right? Whoever's Filipino, think about it. When you go see a tata or a nana, when they kiss you, they go.
Yep.
So just think about what side
It's
they're
not
smelling.
even the kiss. It was the top of my head before.
See.
It was a.
Now it's gonna mess me up.
Yeah.
Because every time somebody smells me when they kiss me, I'm gonna be like, did you use your left or right nostril?
There's a Filipino sharing the ha. That's what it is.
Totally what it is.
Except it's one side.
Totally what it is.
So
Yeah.
you really don't drink at all? Or like some social settings?
I've been drinking probably now for the past 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, what an honor. You decided to drink
Thank
with
you for
us.
blessing us with this drinking
I'm
experience.
telling, okay, so I gotta be honest. When they first say, "Hey, can you come be a guest on Wine and?" I'm like, "Whoa!" It's like I gotta need one of those slap. What are they? What is the bucket
bucket.
thing? Yeah,
The
that's
spit
You can
bucket.
fully
The slap
spit
can.
if you want.
Yeah, you don't have to swallow it.
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah. Don't go yet.
Your body, your
chips
choice.
and the
though.
salsa.
Your body, your
My
choice.
choice, right?
Yeah. If you swallow it, though, I hit. Would you like more wine?
Does every culture drink wine? In your opinion?
Good
That's a great
question.
question. I don't know.
Good question.
I'm so limited on travel. I had 3 trips outside the country in 2020
Wow.
that I couldn't go on for obvious reasons. So I really don't know. And actually, I do think if I could speak on wine culture in Hawaii, we're so behind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like not necessarily knowing everything, because wine is a huge subject. You're never gonna know anything.
Right.
I devoted about 10 years to studying intensely wine, and I don't know 1% of the stuff I'm supposed to know.
See, that's why I always say I'm gonna be a lifelong student of culture. But I always wondered if there was cultures out there that didn't drink wine, right? So, for example, like Hawaii, prior to wine, it was ava, right, and or okolehau, and it was okolehau, the parallel to moonshine, I guess, right? And that's what they drank. But then I thought, wow, I wonder if there's any cultures that don't drink any alcoholic beverages, right?
You know, the ones that don't drink, the ones that ban alcohol, all you have to do is take a look at how the rest of their lives are going and know that alcohol is probably a good thing in moderation. Yeah. Just think
I
of all the
can't
cultures
think-
or religions that ban alcohol.
I can't think of a culture right now
I
that
thought I
bans
can know a
alcohol.
religion. Mormons. Thank
Oh.
you. I didn't know if I was going to say
Don't
I
they?
didn't want to
I didn't
offend
say
any.
that.
No, they
I didn't say
don't.
Oh, Jesus drank wine.
Yeah.
Did he make wine out of water?
I went on a snowboarding trip to Utah, and I knew, of course, that there were more. I just didn't realize the whole thing, like alcohol-wise. And we landed there, and we rent a house. So
And the first thing you do is look
we
for
go to
booze.
a 7-Eleven because we're buying things. We go to a 7-Eleven, and they're like, "No, you have to actually go to a
Another
liquor
wow.
store," and they closed at like 9 p.m. So we had to wait till the next morning to get alcohol.
Brutal.
Right?
I made sure to get a lot, so it lasted me for the whole trip.
Give me the whole shelf. I'm here for 5 days.
A lot of people in the Middle East do not consume alcohol, right?
At
I know
all?
that.
They're not. Yeah.
Wow.
Is it like a religion?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah. All we
That's
need
an
is a wine and
interesting
religion
What- right?
show to
What-
like
what's
completely
up-
derail my career. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. Let's talk religion and politics.
Oh,
Let's
right?
not go there.
Man, that'll
But
get you some
Let
views.
me ask you, like, in the Hawaiian culture, what did Ava do for the people?
Something interesting about Ava is that so as we know today, I'm mixing or everybody's drinking Ava. Hawaiians were the only culture within the Polynesian culture that didn't drink Ava for recreational purposes. It was for ceremony and medicine,
Wow.
right? So ceremony and medicine, like Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, they also use it for ceremonial purposes, but they also did it just for recreational purposes, right? So Ava, depending on what school of thought like you come from, but even myself working as a traditional wine healer, I would use Ava only for medicine or ceremonial purposes. Yeah. So, but okolehau on the other end, okolehau basically is a tea leaf stock, and they would steam it. Just like how they would make moonshine, but that was just straight up. Let's just get shit faced and yeah, right. I tell you got to watch it. There's a video out. Sam Li'a, he was from Waipio. You have to watch this documentary on him, and you would think Hawaiians was rednecks. they drinking okolehau and moonshine in a barn, playing the banjo and the guitar. It's the craziest thing. So it's okolehau was a huge thing, and I think it's coming back now. But
And moonshine is so potent.
yeah.
Oh.
So it's basically tea leaf stock. Now there's flavors, people,
Right.
as we progress, right? So
Right.
Interesting.
And marketing
Yeah.
takes its.
yeah. But yeah, ava is interesting. Especially for that like that. So say for example, speaking of ava, you can also use it so that is like to bless a place. Now if you were in a space that had uhane pilikia, or something bad was here, or something had happened, there's heva, and you want to clear the space, then you would use ava within that mix. Pa'akai, olana, and ava, right? So there's
It's
different.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like going back to the topic you were talking about, like just alcohol in general brings people together.
It's like a gathering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
I
whole
think
reason a wine bottle is like that size, even, right? I mean, it's meant for sharing everything.
here's another that make me sound ignorant to wine. How many glasses of wine is in one bottle?
About four 6-ounce glasses,
Wow.
or 5-ounce glasses.
For Chris, that's not
But I'm
much.
not but I'm an overachiever, so
Yeah?
one glass.
So for all wine, like all wine glasses is 4, or does it vary?
Oh yeah, it varies.
Oh, it varies.
For sure. Yeah, I mean the culture of wine glasses, even it's so.
Have you seen those
What-
ones? It literally fits a whole wine bottle. You can get off of Amazon.
I need that.
I'll get you in.
Is there a
Gay
reason?
gift, Moani.
No, but it's so cool.
Do you have? Please tell me you own one.
I do have one.
Oh my god. Okay.
Because
That's
then it's like
funny.
you can carry around your own glass and you don't have to like go back to. Never mind.
Yeah, but it's a temperature thing. It's like being. a
Well,
decent
you should be
human
very
being.
proud of me because I am not holding the glass how I used to.
I was gonna say that's what I learned from this show. I'm hot-blooded, so I cannot hold.
too.
I'm local, so it doesn't. I hold it. Right? So that's what I
literally break
mean.
it.
So I learned that. I learned that from you. That's why this stem is here, right? Interesting.
Which is just it's best practices. It certainly
Is
doesn't
that what
have
it
to
is?
mean, like that you have to do it in order to feel like a wine drinker.
So speaking of culture, where did all these idiosyncrasies of wine come about? You hold it like this. You smell all that stuff.
I like to think that those things happen for a reason. Like there's like purposes for it. It's not
okay.
just to look like, because wine culture, like people, it's snobby, right?
Right. It's
highbrow.
synonymous with
Wine gets in its own way sometimes.
Right.
So like all these things that the culture of wine, the practices, it's just best practices, and it's certainly not something that you need to follow. There's so many times that like I'm a bottle in or whatever, and I hold it by the bowl.
See, but I think it's interesting though, because that's what culture means, right? If you look in a few different dictionaries, culture is basically 10 or more people believing and doing the same things, that's all you have to have, 10 people, and you can create a culture, right? And I think that's
I thought that was the
interesting.
definition of an orgy.
It is,
Oh,
but sometimes people don't like it.
ladies and
Wine,
gentlemen,
that's the next show,
our
Wine
song.
and, the extended version.
It's wine and after dark.
The extended rated R version.
I love that. I love anything that has to do. It always amazes me that there's somebody that can find 9 of their friends and be like, "Let's do this," right? And it becomes a culture.
Oh, you're talking about culture. Sorry.
I was slightly on that
I
line.
thought, okay.
Slightly on that line.
I don't even have 9 friends, so.
I don't either. So that's why I don't have a culture. But it's interesting to all these little idiosyncrasies. Like even within Hawaii, right? We have so many different cultures in Hawaii, and we've all adopted something from each and every one of them.
Right.
Right? Like Hawaiians, when we exchange ha, we exchange with the nose to nose, and then talk about our Filipino culture. They kiss on the cheek and then they smell. Same kind of concept. It's always weird like that, but I think at the same time it's cool that we borrow things. Yeah, so like I always think any culture is interesting, especially for Hawaii, because I don't say people say we're a melting pot. I think we're just a salad, because we don't really mix. We just all kind of complement each other. But like even the culture of taking off our shoes, and like what Asian ethnicity gave us that?
It's
Right?
Japanese.
I always thought it was Japanese, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the Chinese. Who was here first? Chinese, Japanese, Chinese, right?
Chinese.
But anyway, I always think those things are interesting.
That's
right?
a good way of putting it. We're not necessarily a melting pot. 'Cause
Yeah.
We actually don't all get along.
Yeah, nobody-
We also
yeah, we-
don't all mix.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, nobody ever goes to a salad bar and it's already mixed.
Yep.
right? You're like, yeah, let me put some of this. Because we like some things. I don't like the tomatoes. You know.
Well, I thought you were gonna give me a race there. We like some things. I don't like those.
But I don't know. That's I think that's the beauty of culture and anything that we do is I highly think that people we all need to take a step back and figure out who we are. Yeah. I think we can just it sounds cheesy and kumbaya-ish, but if we just realize who we are as a culture amongst ourselves, I think we'd get along better with everybody else, whether it's ethnic, whether it's social, like I always say, I'm culturized, but for Hawaii, we have a huge identity crisis, right?
But do you think that's because of, say, like maturity or having to go through those really hard times, or is it just the culture and how we are raised and how we
I think it's how we're raised. I mean, you know, you think about, we're such an instant culture now, and we need to be instant. Nobody ever wants to look at, you know, the back, right? Yeah. In Hawaii, the kawama mua, kawama hopi, you need to know where you're from in order to know where you're going, but we don't like to do that anymore. We're just like, let's just move forward, right? You get some people that just want to live in the past and get their 2 feet in the lo'i and just pull tarot all day. But I guarantee you, if I brought a Dremel or a power drill to the canoe maker back in the old days, he'd be like, yeah, give it to me, right? Hawaiians were such an advanced society. We always wanted to move forward. Right? We always wanted to move forward. I think we created social media. There were, back in the mid-1800s, there was over 100 different newspapers in Hawaii. We were the most literate country in the world. For a country that didn't have a language, a written language, we had the most newspapers. And people used to, just like today, how people give each other shit on social media, Hawaiians did that back in the day. They would write it, if I didn't like you, I would write a article in one newspaper, and you would rebuttal that in another newspaper.
Wow.
I totally think Hawaiians created the concept of social media because that's what we did back in the day. Like there's a song that a man wrote that's kind of famous today. People dance hula to it. The song was he wrote a song about his wife. When he sees her, he gets butterflies in his stomach. I see you in the marketplace. I see you here. I see you there. But the kauna, or the deeper meaning of that, is that it basically means when I see your face, I want to puke, because she was fooling around with somebody. So he wrote this song, posted in the newspaper. People are like, oh my God, what a beautiful song, right? She had to rebuttal that because she knew what he meant. I saw you at the marketplace. When I see you, it gets butterflies in my stomach. To us, it sounds like, oh, so nice, but he wanted to throw up. Piuke. Right?
That was like the original diss track then.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Back in the day, if you go to old Hawaiian newspapers, it's funny.
Interesting.
Hawaiians were we didn't have swear words, but we would go straight for the jugular. You know that saying, that English saying, lights on, nobody home? Oh, Hawaiians are full like that. We could put you down like, oh, you're about as good as a li'i tea leaf.
Oh, jeez.
Right? Think about a small tea leaf. You can't rap lao. You can't bless anything. There's no use for it. So you're about as good as a small tea leaf.
And that's why now to present day, nothing has changed, right?
Yeah. But I think we should change it up instead of being really, you got to be poetic when you put somebody down.
Right. But in Hawaiian culture, it's almost like you said, poetic. You know, there's some art to it, but like we're like that as a culture. Like the locals would just, joke around, but really we mean it. But then we're joking. Yeah. But that's just how we are.
So that's what I mean
it's
about.
more passive aggressive.
Again, it sounds kumbaya-ish, but if the world could see everybody like that, I can sit and tease the hell out of everybody, but at the end of the day, we're still sharing wine together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, on that note, we're going to close this out. Where can we find you again on social media?
Culturised Podcast on IG. Culturised.com is the website. Spotify, Google. If you don't want to see my face, go listen to it. Right? You know how it is. Like, God, that guy. Let me just listen to him. Spotify, Google, and Apple. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, Makani.
Thank you, guys.
Be sure to follow us on YouTube,
Mahalo,
on Instagram,
mahalo.
Subscribe, tell all your friends. Thank you for watching Wine and Culture. Cheers, guys. Sorry, I missed the cheers.
Uh-oh.
There you go.